Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you out there. I want to start by asking you a question. What do you think about when you get dressed in the morning? I guess about the weather, who you're going to meet, and what you're going to do, just like me and most other people. Because we dress to impress, and we dress to express who we are or who we want to be. And I want you to remember this dress because I'm going to tell you later why I choose to wear this dress today. We express who we are either by following all the latest fashion trends or at least struggling not to be completely left behind, or we choose to go against the stream and create our own personal style. And I think most of us have at some point. I have for sure in my youth. There will not going to be any pictures here of me trying to look like Madonna in Desperately Seeking Susan, but I was there. The point here is that fashion affects us all, whether we want it or not, in one way or the other, because we all relate to it. But there's also another way that fashion affects us, and that is through its effect on the climate and the environment. And this is perhaps less well known. But the fashion industry is in fact one of the world's most polluting industries. Only the fuel and the agriculture industries are more polluting than the fashion industry. This $1.5 trillion revenue industry pollutes lands, waters, and air with chemicals and microplastics. It's responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than all international flights and maritime shipping combined. And it's also the second biggest user of water in the world. So how is this possible? I will give you some examples. The clothes we wear are traditionally made either from natural fibers, such as cotton, silk, and wool, fibers that we find in nature, or synthetic fibers that are all man-made, like polyester and nylon. So which ones do you think are the most polluting? Hands up those who think that natural fibers are less polluting. Yes, those of you who think that, I think you're not alone. I mean, you get some clues from this speech, perhaps already, but most people will think that natural fibers are, you hear from the name, they're natural, it sounds good, and you might also know that they can be reused and they are broken down into nature again quite easily. But in reality, it's a bit more complicated. Natural fibers like silk, cotton, and wool are actually have the greatest negative impact on the environment and climate short term. But since they often last longer and we therefore use them longer, the negative impact evens out in the longer run. So the heavy pollution comes from the way these textiles are produced. So it's from the cultivation and coloring phase or dyeing phase, where enormous quantities of both chemicals and waters are being used. It's required to produce these textiles out of these natural fibers. For example, to produce 1 kilo of cotton textile, on conventional cotton textile, there's a big difference between conventional cotton and organic cotton. But for conventional cotton textile, 1 kilo requires at least 10,000 liters of water. So that gives you an idea. One horrible example of the consequences of this is the Aral Sea on the border between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. It used to be the 4th biggest lake in the world. Now it has almost disappeared 50 years after the water in the lake started being used to water cotton fields. And you can see the before and after pictures here. So what about synthetic textiles then? Well, like polyester and nylon. Well, unfortunately, these textiles and these fibers that 2/3 of our clothes are made out of are also problematic for the environment and the climate. They're made from fossil oils, so when burned as waste, they create extensive greenhouse gases, and they also break down extremely slowly into nature. Many of them, like polyester, also demand enormous amounts of energy to be produced. But there's also another problem with synthetic textiles, and that is that they release microplastics. All fabrics shed when being used. They leave small particles behind. And synthetic fibers release microplastics, in particular when they're being washed. And these microplastics pass through the filters of the wastewater treatment plants and end up in nature, affecting all life in rivers and oceans, and by that also affecting us humans through the water we drink and the food that we eat. And actually recently, a scientific article showed that plastics even had been found in human blood. But before this gets too depressing, let's turn to what can be done to turn this around. Like many challenges when it comes to the environment and climate, the solution lies in a combination of innovation and a change of our mindset. And when it comes to both these issues, the fashion industry has to take a great responsibility, because 80% of the effect on the environment and climate of the fashion industry comes from the production phase. And here there are some good news. In Sweden, for example, the fashion industry is working with research and innovation to reduce its negative impact. The idea is to go from a linear economy, where limited resources are being wasted, to go to a circular economy, where everything is reused, recycled, or in some way going back into the system. Broken down is, of course, the best. New techniques are also developed to dye and color fabrics in different ways that require significantly less water, chemicals, and color. Also to cut synthetic fibers with ultrasound to release the shedding of microplastics. Innovations like washing bags and filters of washing machines are also being developed to trap these small microplastics. But leading fast fashion producers in Sweden have also realized that taking care of the environment and the climate is actually becoming a selling point, because many people want this kind of fashion. So that's an incentive to look into what can be done. So you would think that fast fashion would be one of the problems, but they're trying to not be part of the problem any longer. And now I come to why I'm wearing this dress. This dress is part of a response to this demand from people buying fashion. It's made from one of the big Swedish fast fashion producers, and it's entirely made out of recycled materials. So this is the way it can look. And actually I've seen not only the Crown Princess of Sweden, but also other royal families in Europe wearing clothes from this line. So it shows many people want to show that they are conscious about the environment and climate. There are also new materials being developed. The dress in the picture is knitted from actually paper made from Swedish woods. So this is another very interesting aspect, actually, that fast fashion might become even faster if it's made out of materials that come from fast-growing trees, for example, that can be broken down into nature and go back. We also have the concept of upcycling, which means that you take something and you upcycle it or redesign it into something else. This coat is made by a jeans producer in Sweden from last year's jeans, or last season's jeans, into this kimono. This is something that we here in the embassy also work with in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We work with a local organization who are, in their turn, working with local designers and young people to teach young people how to do upcycling, to use clothes that already exist and change them into something else. And it's really amazing. I've seen the results and it's very impressive. I've also seen others here in Bosnia and Herzegovina who are making beautiful slippers out of old car seats. So it seems that there's absolutely no limit to what you can do when it comes to upcycling and redesigning if you have a creative mind. But having said all this, 3 things will really make a big difference when it comes to the production side. And the first one is to change to renewable energy. The second one is to start using much less water. And the third one is to make sure that the textiles don't end up as waste. Actually, 85% of all the textiles being produced end up as waste, either being burned or in landfills. And with the background that we now have, we realize that this is a disaster. So what about us, the consumers? I don't know about you, but I always feel better if there's something that I feel that I can do to make things better. And I've realized that, at least for me, many of the things that we can do as consumers are easy, and they also make me happy. The first one is buy less. We should only buy things that we really like and will wear, not to be persuaded to buy things that look fabulous, but later on we realize that maybe this was not for me. I'm sure many of us have those pieces in our wardrobe, something that we bought that looked amazing, but then we never really had an opportunity to wear them, or didn't fit our lifestyle, or maybe didn't even fit us. So these things we should definitely avoid. Yeah, and I think, to me, this is actually one of the things I like the most. So, do you see here me today standing in this dress? But I'm a person that actually would be so happy to wear exactly the same things every day. So now I have the perfect excuse not to buy new things. So buy less is my favorite. The second thing we can do is to use our clothes longer, which means we should buy things, again, that we really like, but also good quality, that will last for a long time. It means that we should all choose materials like, again, organic cotton and wool that last for a long time. And use really few nice pieces. And again, at least I have those in my wardrobe that I thought, this might be a bit too pricey for something really basic and boring, like a pair of black pants or trousers. But then you realize that this is actually the thing that you really need, and you wear it day in and day out. And those are the ones we should look for, the love that will last. Something else we can do is to actually swap clothes with each other. I move around a lot as a diplomat, and I've realized that this is a good opportunity when I move to look at my wardrobe and see what have I not used over the last year. And then I take those things, nice things, some things that have not been worn a lot, and then I invite my friends over for a drink, and they get to pick if there's something that they like. It's a nice thing to leave behind, and also creates an additional memory together. But this can, of course, be done at any point. To see, if we can just share clothes with each other, it makes everybody happy. It can also be done at a larger scale. It doesn't have to be with friends that we know if we organize it well. Something else we can do is second-hand, and I think this picture is what we have in mind when we think about second-hand. But there are actually a new concept also here that I love, probably in other places, but I know in Sweden there are already several chains of shops that sell second-hand that look like concept stores, because basically they are. One, for example, has the rule that everything handed in has to be, cannot be more than 1 or possibly 2 years old, and it all has to be Scandinavian design. And this means that you go there, you hand in your clothes. It's almost like a clothes swap. You hand in your clothes, you get credits, or you can get money as well, and then you buy something else. And this is incredibly popular with young people in particular, because they get to look fabulous, but they can also brag about that they care about the environment and the climate. So this is very, very popular in Sweden. Something else you can do is, of course, to rent or borrow, if it's just for one occasion. The classic thing is a wedding, or maybe a big ball, or when you end school. And here, there are also other ways to make sure that if you buy a wedding dress, for example, you can make sure that this wedding dress is something that can be used again. I know that it's one upscale designer here in Bosnia and Herzegovina who has that as an idea, that the wedding dress is 2 pieces, so you can continue wearing them separately after the wedding, and I really like that you keep on using this dress from one of the most important days in your life. The third thing is to take proper care of our clothes. This can be hard, I think, sometimes, But if we just take good care of them, they will last for a long time. We can also repair. And I found an amazing woman here, because I'm not so skilled myself, that has mended and repaired some of my favorite clothes. And I feel like I have given new life to these old friends. We should also take care and follow the instructions, because something that we tend to do a little bit too much is to overwash our clothes. I mean, if you've been out in a smoky bar or restaurant, it's better just to hang the clothes out in the air, or if you get a stain, just to take away that stain without overwashing, because the washing affects the environment a lot. And also, of course, line dry our clothes instead of hanging them, putting them in a dry tumbler. That uses a lot of energy. And the final thing that we can also do as consumers is, of course, to demand more sustainable fashion and more transparency. If we are informed, we can put pressure on the companies to act sustainably and develop fashion that does not harm the environment and the climate. So I hope that after today, you will all start looking at your clothes and your fashion habits in a different way, and that you will continue to dress to impress, but also dress to save the world. Thank you.